Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? It is great to be here after last week's little kerfluffle. Mm. But if you're new to this broadcast, thanks so much for stopping by. My name is Renee Harden. By trade, I'm an editor and a writing coach, and I love helping people tell their stories, and I love, playing around with my own story and writing some things down and saving them, and hopefully in the future publishing them for other people to read. And so if you're interested in those kinds of things, I share a little bit about that. I talk about some interesting stories. I share some interesting stories with you and hopefully encourage you to tell your own story. So this is a little weekly sort of vlog, I guess you would call it. Some people are calling them video podcasts. Uh, they were called live streams when they first started, right? But it's just a wonderful way that we can use these social media tools to stay in touch with each other and connect. So good morning, good morning. Good to have you here. Good morning. My sweet girl, who happens to be downstairs at my house because she's visiting this week. So excited to have her here as always. Hello, my beautiful girl. So glad to have you here. Well, if you are watching live, please drop in and say hello from where you're joining. I love to say hello to all of my friends who are watching live. I have this going out to two platforms, three different locations simultaneously. So hopefully you're on one of them and you'll pop in here and say good morning. So, interesting thing that came up this week. This week was the 1 year mark from when I had COVID last year, and gosh, here we are this summer. We're back out. Travel, guys, is crazy. I mean, we've been able to navigate it so far, but boy, have we seen an uptick in people traveling. It's summertime. We are now in the trenches of summer, right? We've already passed the solstice period, and now we're heading back towards the days are going to start getting a little shorter, little by little. Before you know it, guys, it's going to be August. Like next Saturday is the very last Saturday of the month, I believe. Is that correct? Or is it Friday? Is Friday the last day? Let me pull up my calendar and look. Aren't we glad we have these tools to help us navigate the days? So, yes, next Saturday when I go live, it'll be the last one of July. And then we have 5 months left of the year. 5 months. Have you started thinking about Christmas shopping yet? Have you been doing some Christmas shopping? I've been doing some early Christmas shopping. Good morning, Sherry. Good morning, Savannah. You're actually so ready for fall. And now that she's here in Dallas, experiencing the very high temperatures of Texas, I'm sure she's ready for fall as well. Well, speaking of travel, guys, last week I tried to go live. As you know, I tried to go live from the balcony patio with my view of Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire. But because the Wi-Fi in this sweet little quaint inn was just enough Wi-Fi to check email and do those kinds of things, but not strong enough to handle a live stream. And we were nowhere. I mean, we were in a place where there was not a Starbucks anywhere. But it was beautiful. We were out by this beautiful lake. So my mug that was last week and also this week, because I'm trying to share it with you, and the camera's going to kind of freak out and zoom in for a minute so you can see the cup. There it goes. But this is my Starbucks mug. I did find one, but we had to go way into New Hampshire, into a town that actually had Starbucks locations. But this was the lake, guys. Wait, let me do it right here. This is the lake we were on. and it has 183 miles of coastline. So this is the mug. We went on a really cool little scenic train ride. That was fun. And it was just beautiful. We were up where the culture is people are on the lakes, they're fishing, everyone has a boat. Everywhere we went or drove around in this little town, there were boat dealers, boat repair people, boat washing places. Every home had some kind of a boat, kayaks, pontoons, all kinds of boats. It was fascinating, and it even started raining a few days while we were there, and this didn't stop these people. Nope, in the rain, not heavy torrential rain, but I'm talking just stuff where we would maybe get out in it if we had to go to CVS or Walgreens or the grocery store. Nope, these people are out there. They're out there, and they're in shorts and like tank tops like this in like 63-degree weather on their boats. It was amazing. So a new place, and so this was my first time to ever be in the state of New Hampshire. Never in all my years. This is one place of all the travels I've done. This is one place I've not been. And my husband, Michael, it was the first time for both of us to be in this state. So it was fascinating to go to a new place, new culture, where people live a different life because geographically where they live, they're next to this huge lake called Lake Winnipesaukee. And like I said, it has 183 miles of coastline on the so we learned that taking the train ride, and we only took a train ride that was 9 miles one way, 9 miles back. So the whole trip was 18 miles. It took us 2 hours on this old scenic train ride that you get to take along the part of the coast of the lake. So imagine 183 miles. Someone had to map that, right? Sounds like Minnesota. Yes, Sherry, probably very much like Minnesota. So it was fascinating to be up there. It was really nice and quiet and beautiful. We went up there to see a couple of shows with the Tedeschi Trucks Band, who were phenomenal. I could watch them play every day and not get bored of it because they're such brilliant musicians. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. And we went there. How about you? Are you traveling at all during the summer? Are you thinking about traveling? Some people are, they're in the throes of their summer vacations. This is that time of year where a lot of families who haven't traveled yet are traveling because school is going to be starting soon. Can you believe that? It feels like we just came out of the pandemic long enough to start enjoying life. And now school's going to be starting again. And, and then we're going to be counting down to Christmas, and we're going to have another year in our back pocket. And it just feels like a blur, doesn't it? So usually about this time is when I like to sit down, and I'll be sitting down with my daughter, and we plan out my social media content because she helps create a lot of that. And so we sit down and we put a timeline on it. Just like if anything that you're trying to accomplish, you want to put a timeline on it. You want to put a plan on it, right? You want to map out how your days are going to go. And when you do that, it makes it easier for you to look forward to the future, to know what's coming up on your schedule so you don't get overwhelmed, right? To be able to plan out things like, things you may have to spend money on, maintenance that has to get done on your car or your home or yourself, right? Doctor's appointments that you have to get done. All of those things are mapped out. And when we map those things out, it helps us plan, and it helps us not get anxious about what are we going to do every day? What's happening, right? It helps us put some definition to our journey through life. So, have you ever thought about the history of maps, where that all started? Because I love doing word studies, and I love learning more about things. It helps me have a better perspective on my world and my story. So there was a story that came out, a documentary, in fact, in the last couple of weeks that has been released in the public. Some people, people feel differently about this person, but Anthony Bourdain. Anthony Bourdain was a traveler, but he also hosted a show, which you probably have seen if you haven't. Um, I think it was, I'm trying to remember the title of it now. It was something about something parts. Anyway, he would travel around the globe and he would sit down with the local culture. He would get to know them. He would eat their food. Mainly, it started off as a cooking show, but he was a cook. And he went from being a cook in just some little restaurant in New York to traveling the globe and learning about all of the places. And as he went, he would document the places where he ate, the different locations he visited. And so he had a book come out that was co-written by his assistant for 10 years, because, unfortunately, we lost Anthony Bourdain to suicide due to mental health challenges that he had. But he left us his legacy in this book called World Travel. And in this book, what he does is he goes through and he talks about different places he's been. It's this Finland. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but this is, he has a chapter on Finland. He has one on the United States, and he goes through different places in the United States. I tried to see if New Hampshire was in there, and it was not. So he did not go to New Hampshire. But he did go to other places. And when he visited, for example, his section on New York has everything divided up by the different boroughs, where to stay when you get there, how you get around, the different airports into and out of to get to these locations, best places to stay for, what am I trying to say? Like hotels and stuff. He makes suggestions on locations of the towns to stay in. But he has different restaurant recommendations with prices and their website. I mean, it's a very big, really well done book that his assistant helped put together of all of his experiences and all of the places he'd been. And so when you take a book like this, or you read a book like this, and you want to research somewhere that you want to go, and you prepare all those things, right? You can read this book or look in this book for maybe a location that you would like to go to and see what Anthony Bourdain's suggestions are for great restaurants to visit, right? It's really helpful. You loved watching him. You loved watching him on PBS. Yes, he was fantastic. And it's sad that we lost him to the challenges of suicide. It is crazy fast how time is flying, right? And we're dealing with, do we wear a mask? Do we not wear a mask? Must I seal myself in saran wrap, press and seal, because we can't get a handle on this virus, and now the virus is mutating so many times that there's strains we have to watch for? Is the person I'm sitting next to a walking, viral plague, or are they okay? It's tough to navigate. And here we are trying to just have summer vacation and have fun, right? But if we plan and we put some order to what we're doing, it helps us understand our world. So I was mentioning about the history of maps. Have you ever wondered, do you remember, here's one that I used to use when I was doing school with my kids. It's called the Answer Atlas. Can you see that? The Answer Atlas. And it's a geography resource. And it teaches them all about the different places in the world, right? And so maps, we think about, do you remember when you used to use Mapsco? Did everyone ever use a Mapsco? And so you would learn, right, as you're teaching your children about the United States and learning our geography, you have the map of the 50 states. So someone had to create these and make them to a scale where we would be able to understand navigating travel. And if you think about the earliest times where they didn't have these wonderfully 4-color printed atlases to help them get around, how did people navigate, right? Well, on one of my many travels that I've been to, well, not many, but I'll say 3 travels that I've been to be able to go to London and visit the British Museum, there is a map. And I'm going to try to pull up my picture here so you can see it. Where is my picture? Okay, here we go. Savannah, this is what we talk about when we talk about having these elements ready. I did have it ready, And then I had to refresh my page for the broadcast and it disappeared. So I'm going to find the picture that I had pulled up. Um, let's see. All right, there it is. Awkward pause. Take a sip. Let's take a sip, shall we, while I find my picture? All right, there it is. Let me open it. I was gonna go open it, and I looked down in the corner where the little staging area is for my software, and the picture was gone. So when it refreshed, it just disappeared. And I went to go open it for you, and 'twas not there. All right, let's see here. Okay, come on. Where are you? I do have a picture for you, I promise. And it is not opening for me. What is the deal? Okay, let's try that again because I really want you to see this. This is one of the earliest maps that was discovered. There it is. Okay, finally. Took it a minute to open. What is the deal? All right, let's get to the screen share here now. That took what, 10 minutes? You love traditional maps? You know, they're really helpful. I used to use them all the time. Navigating, I used to think, what did we do without GPS, right? How did we get around? Well, we did. We had maps. We had maps codes. We had folded maps that we kept in the glove compartment of our car that we would pull out as we pulled over to the side of the road to look where we were, figure out, figure out where we were, and go, right? That's how we did it. So this was the picture I wanted to show you. It took long enough. So this is one of the earliest saved maps, right? One of the earliest maps that were saved. It's in the British Museum. This is part of in the exhibit where the Babylonian artifacts are. And what's really great about this is that the cuneiform on the tablet is written in Akkadian, and so they've been able to decipher it. And so this map represents the world as the Babylonians believed it was, because it intentionally left off a couple of other civilizations that were there. They didn't believe in them. They didn't want to include them in their map, so they just made their little map. But what's interesting about this map is that it's centered on the Euphrates River, and so they give names to the Euphrates and Ur and Susa, places that we know to be in the Bible that date back. You know, this is dated around 600 BCE, right? So this is 600 BC. So this is one of the earliest known and saved maps dated back to that time period. So it shows that man was already starting to understand his domain and wanting to represent that so that other people who traveled would know their kingdom, right? And be familiar with that. You're also a big fan of GPS. Me too. Me too. So man started then. We also have Ptolemy, who studied astronomy and mathematics, and through that, mapping techniques improved up to Homer, up through all the ages of as our civilizations grew, as man grew and expanded his territory, there was a need for people to know where they were, and they used maps to help navigate, and they used the stars. Imagine when the sky was not polluted, and you didn't have also all the lights from the cities shining up. The sky was so clear that they were able to use the stars to navigate their journeys. It's how the Pacific Islander people, the Polynesians, were able to populate and go even to the island of Hawaii, used the stars to navigate their way across the ocean to find new lands. So it's amazing technology, right? And the word map studies actually comes from an English word cartography, right? So cartography comes from a French word cartographie, which comes from the word carte in Latin, right? Carte meaning map, and graphy or grapho meaning to write. So cartography is the study of written maps. Interesting. So this Babylonian map is called the Imago Mundi, image of the earth. It's the oldest one. And again, like I said, it was based on their perception of what the world was according to their religious beliefs. They defined their world by what they saw, what they knew. And yet it provides us with a snapshot of what life was like back then and how they were already using techniques that we use today. Well, fast forward to GPS, right? Listen, I don't know about you. I love it. I have like three different kinds of maps on my phone. I have Google Maps, Apple Maps, and Waze, right? I even have a map that when we're traveling and we're flying, it follows our plane. Or like if my daughter is flying and I want to kind of monitor her flight, I can watch that. You can put in a flight number. This was the and it shows that flights are scheduled or where they're going to be traveling and other planes that are in the path, right? Super helpful information that we have. Well, you know that technology has only existed in about the last 25 to 30 years. Okay, so GPS stands for Global Positioning System. Global Positioning System. Originally was called Navstar, and it is a satellite-based radio navigation system owned by the United States government. So what we are able to do with our little devices is there's a signal that goes up to satellites that are given permission to use the information to send down to our little devices. So now we have mapping. Now, I don't know about you. Some of them are great. Like some of them are not. Have you ever been mapped somewhere and you're like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. I'm sitting in a parking lot, or you're at the end of a road and so there are some things about it that's you have, depending on which one you use, right? Google Maps seems to be the most accurate. So that's the one I use a lot, right? Google Maps, you put it in there and you see there you go, right? And so you put in where you want to go. You can find restaurants. You can find anything. You can find, if you're shopping for a product and you don't want to have to run around all over town, you can find that product and map yourself to it if you need to, right? It's fascinating. So the GPS system was started by the United States Department of Defense in 1973, when the first prototype was launched in 1978, and the full constellation of 24 satellites, which were operational in 1993. Okay, so that was the first prototype sent out. Now, how did GPS technology come about? Why were we suddenly given access to the government's satellite systems? Well, because this was originally used for only military use. It was not supposed to be opened up to the public, but civilian use was opened up in the 80s after President Ronald Reagan signed an executive order after the Korean Airlines Flight 007 happened. For those who are not familiar with that incident, there was a flight, Korean Airlines, that was taking from New York, going over to, I'm trying to remember where was that flight going to? I think it was going to, what was it? Korean Air. It was on its way somewhere overseas, but it was going like through Alaska and then going. Let me look that up real quick. I'm trying to remember where the destination was. Okay. So it was Korean Airlines. It was going to Seoul, South Korea. So it was on its way to South Korea, but it went from New York through Anchorage, Alaska, and down to Korea. But what happened is the navigation system miscalculated a little bit. The pilots that were flying missed a mark and caused them to go into Russian airspace. And so the Russians thought this was a spy plane and they shot it down. Now, at first, they didn't want to admit that they shot it down. 246 passengers. 246 passengers. And so it was shot down by the Soviets. And so when that happened, President Reagan signed an executive order giving permission for, air traffic control and other places to have access to those satellites. And so now we have GPS technology, and that's where that came from. So, so important to know where we're going, what we're doing, how we're going to get there, the best way to get there, right? There is a popular children's book that is given to high school students when they graduate. Oh, that's unbelievable. Yeah, right? Sometimes it takes an incident like that to make us have access to this. So, Savannah, when you all were little and we used to travel, I had a Mapsco. I had a giant map. You probably remember it as a kid. We had the map book that was in our car that we used, and it was a Mapsco for all the states. So we could navigate. I could get around when I was traveling with the children, right? Because GPS technology really didn't happen on our phones so that's a blessing that we have now. But that wasn't given to us without permission from the government. Now, the sad thing is that can also be turned off. Or, God forbid, anything happens to our satellite systems out there with all the space debris flying around. If any of that hits the satellites or damages them, what happens? People are down here not knowing how to get around? Well, that's why it's really important that we teach our kids how to read a map, how to understand what a map is. Start them with something like a scavenger hunt map or a treasure map. Read some great stories. So I've got some suggestions about some things you can do with your kiddos to make learning about maps and geography. They start with learning their neighborhood, and then they learn their town or their city, right? They go to school, they learn about their states, their capitals, the globe. The people are on the earth, on the other side of the globe as we are. There are some parts of the globe right now, if you look on a map, if they're below a certain part of the hemisphere of the earth, they're going through winter right now as we're going through summer. So learning all of those things is so fascinating and helpful for our children to then help navigate where they want to go. So, yes, one of the great books that was written about where we want to go, and it's given to high school students, it's given to college students. As a gift, I see these pop up a lot of times at graduation. I remember one year I had to sign with a bunch of the teachers where I taught. We all signed the books to the seniors that year. But it's the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss, right? We know that book. Out there, things can happen and frequently do to people as brainy and footsy as you. And when things start to happen, don't worry, don't stew, just go right along. You'll start happening too, right? So we teach them and give them the motivation and the desire to learn and to explore, to try new things, to go new places, right? So the best way that we can teach them to do that is through great books and great maps. And so I showed you one I used earlier. I had a couple of these with my kids. So this one was a world history map, right? A world history map. And so this one, as we're studying world history and we're learning about the places and the world's, well, this map shows all of those places. And especially when you can see them as they were back in time. So this map shows what Europe was like in 1648. And you notice that the nations are not called, you notice there's a nation called Bohemia. Well, what was Bohemia, right? Is that part of, so there's Spain and France and England. And then you look at, this is called the Ottoman Empire, right? And if that's the Mediterranean, it's the Mediterranean area. And so, and the Black Sea and Ukraine, so this all becomes Russia, China and Russia. Oh, there's Russia, Poland, Turkey. So you could show your children these older maps and then show them a newer map to understand this is how things changed over time. So this map is awesome because it goes through different time periods in history. This is, let's see, I want to find a good one. Let's see. Oh, here's something interesting. South American states for the years 500 to 1532 CE. So look at that. Look at how much of the world at that time in South America was populated and how much was forest, right? The map on the other side is Africa from 1200 to 1600, right? So as you study with your children, you're able to get a great atlas like this, the World History Atlas. Then we had United States History Atlas. And this one went through the development of the United States, right? So here's, if you're studying about the Civil War, right? Here's Fredericksburg to Gettysburg. Here's a map of Sherman's march through the South, okay? So as your children are studying and learning about their state, where they live in the United States, where the settlements started. So this starts from the early settlements to the first 13 states, right? And so we went to, let's see if I can find it on here. Was New Hampshire a state? Where is it? New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. Oh, there it is. Right up here in this pink part. This is New Hampshire. This is where we were, right? But it wasn't part of the original 13 states. See, these are the 13 states. So this was unexplored territory, right? They hadn't really been populated yet, and they were New England colonies. But not a lot of towns existed yet because they were just starting. So when you have a book like this, you're able to go through your lessons. You can help your children understand and learn more about where they live. So what I did when I was teaching is we used something called the Trail Guide to World Geography. This is a 36-week study of maps and of different places on the earth. So this is a great book, and I'll provide you links to all of these. This gives you an overview of geography trails, how to read a map, how to schedule points of interest for your child. So if you go somewhere, because we traveled on the road a lot and we were studying, I would always research and look for places where we were going to explore. Michael and I do that. We go and look for different things. Michael surprised me with the train ride along the lake. That was so fascinating and fun because the train then stopped at little places along the way. And you got to see, oh, look, this is a huge place where boats come in and park. And there's like shopping and stores, all that. And a lot of people who live across the lake, they don't get in their car and drive all the way around. They get in their boat and shoot across the lake to the other side. So a lot of times the people who live in an area like that, they'll use a boat dock. And so to know where those boat docks are is important. So this book provides different ways, different grade levels. You have jigsaw puzzles, you have all kinds of things that you can use. And this is a 36-week study of the globe, of the different continents. So you spend, you have, I'll show you the table of contents here. So you have week 1 and week 2 is on the world, right? They have lesson plan suggestions for all grade levels, how to make the assignments. And then it says you spend 5 weeks in the Americas, in North America. Then you have South America. Let me show you the next page. And it goes on, right? It goes on. You study Europe, Africa, Asia, Oceania, Antarctica. And it has a section to study geography through literature. So as you're reading and your stories are taking place in different parts of the world, you can then read and learn about that. So for example, let's see here. So the book that they use for this study guide to help you learn, right, is a great book for kids. It's a great book for adults too. It's called Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, right? So there's a wealthy man named Phileas Fogg, and he tells the members of his gentlemen's club that he can travel around the world in just 80 days. So he places a bet on whether he'll be successful. And his servant, Passepartout, they set out on their adventure, right? And so Phileas Fogg has a bet, and he'll lose everything if he doesn't make it around the world in 80 days. So as you are, yes, Savannah, you remember. And it's been made into a great movie as well. So when you read this and you study this, there are lessons in this book to help you for the chapters. So, for example, um, let's see here. So when you read certain chapters, so it'll say chapters, 1 through 4. So you're going to read 1 through 4, and this is where everybody meets and where everything's well. So your study starts out with draw boundaries of the United Kingdom and label each country. Then label London, Liverpool, and Glasgow. Right? Find them, look for them on there. And then there are questions, and then it says things like learn more about the 1800s. Compare this life in England to life in America at that time. Find out information about London from a travel video or on the internet. What countries make up the United Kingdom and what is its history? So these are ways that children can learn more about these different places as they're reading about it in a story, right? Have you ever read a book that you really enjoy and it's set in a really cool place and it makes you get on the internet and start researching, places there or how much airfare is to get there or if it's local to you, how long it would take for you to drive there and some things that you can do, right? So those are all fun things that you can try. So like I said, check out the Trail Guide to World Geography, right? It's a trail guide. And this is a really helpful, you can adapt these things for all grade levels, from first grade all the way up to senior year. This is a great book really for all the way up to junior high, I think, but even high schoolers could get through this and blow past it, pretty fast. But it's a great walk through different places around the globe. So Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. You can also go to the website maps.com. You can order any of these atlases. You can see the atlases and maps online. There's also some websites called Old Historical Maps, I believe, oldhistoricalmaps.com. But I'll be providing links for all of that in the chat here so that you can access them and add them to your little library, whether it's online or physically, to learn more about the places that you'll go and all the things that you'll get to do. I hope you're going to take some time this summer, even if you just have to get in the car and, drive a little ways, get to a lake, get to a beautiful spot somewhere, spend some time out in nature. Really enjoy getting to spend some time out in this season because before you know it, it's going to be fall and then it's going to be wintertime. There's always adventures going on at any time of the year. I hope you're taking advantage of yours. And if I can help you with your story, please let me know. I would love to help you share a story, put together some ideas. Maybe you want to map out a plan for how you can then share your story, maybe publish your story, write a blog, maybe even put a timeline down of getting into more of a disciplined habit of writing. Do you write regularly? Would you like to learn to write more? Maybe you've never really written anything and you'd like to explore that. If you want to know, please contact me. I would love to help you walk through that. It's what I do for a living. I love helping people kind of tap into their creativity and capture that in whatever form they want, whether it's in video or podcasting or writing stories. It's all content that you're created to share with us so we can learn more about your story. I hope you'll share your story with me. I love getting to share mine with you. And I do this here on the social media platforms where you can find me on Instagram and Facebook here. You can also check me out on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/Ronnie Harden. You'll see I keep a archive there of all the live broadcasts that I've done. And so you can go back and check out any of my stories because I love sharing them with you. And I also love sharing a good cup of coffee. So thanks for sharing one with me. I appreciate it. And if you would like to know more about my book club, I have a book club and we are reading a fabulous book called The Library Book, all about the place that we go to learn about great stories. We've read this book this month. It's been fabulous. I'm going to have the discussion this coming Tuesday about this book. So if you would like to learn a little bit more about our book club and how we operate and what it's like, we pick a book every month to read. We get together a couple of times a month online and we talk about how we're enjoying the book and what we're learning. So if you'd like to learn more about that, I would love to have you. You can also go to my website right here at reneehorton.com/contact. Ask me any question you want about writing, find out about the book club, or just find out more about me. Let me know how I can help you out. This is where you can get in touch with me, all right? But I hope I can see you back here next weekend where we get together and we share the last Saturday of July before we head into the last 5 months of 2021. And we'll be talking about our bucket list and where we are, checking in on the progress of that. So I hope you'll join me. I hope you'll have a fantastic weekend. Make the most of your weekend. Get out there and share your story with somebody, or find some fun, fabulous stories and share them, because we like to learn more about those as well, right? We're all in this together, and I want to be your champion to help you share yours, all right? So, guys, thanks for joining me. Always a pleasure. Love getting to hang out and have coffee with you. Let me know how I can help, how I can serve you this week. Remember, he knows the plans he has for us. The plans, the map. He already knows the plans he has for us. Plans to prosper us and not to harm us. Plans to give us a hope and a future. I'm looking forward to mine. I hope you are looking forward to yours. Take care, guys. I'll see you back